The research outpost on Earth's western continent was a quiet place, until the aliens arrived. The Zamari, an advanced species with bioluminescent skin and heightened senses, had come to study humanity up close. Among them was Velsha, a dedicated researcher with a sharp mind and a body attuned to detecting the faintest chemical signals in the air. Humans, however, were an enigma to her. Their emotions ran wild, their bodies were unpredictable, and their scents, oh, the scents, were a storm of complexity her kind had never encountered. Then she met Dane, a human biologist stationed at the research facility. Dane was the kind of man who didn't think twice about rolling up his sleeves and working through the heat of the day. He had an easy way of speaking, a relaxed confidence that made him both likable and unknowable. Velsha had observed him from afar, noting his mannerisms, his habits, the way his voice carried through the outpost halls. She found him tolerable, but nothing more. That changed one afternoon. Dane had spent the better part of the morning repairing one of the malfunctioning greenhouse systems. By the time he entered the main lab, his undershirt was damp, his skin glistening with sweat. He wiped his brow, exhaled sharply, and stepped past Velsha without a second thought. Then she inhaled. Her body locked up. The air carried something dangerous, something so intoxicating it made her knees wobble. A scent so primal it bypassed logic, and lodged itself deep in her instincts. She turned, eyes wide, as Dane reached for a datapad. He wasn't even looking at her. Velsha swallowed hard, trying to process the sudden, violent reaction surging through her body. Her pulse spiked, heat coiled in her belly, and an overwhelming urge she couldn't name clawed at her senses. This was bad. She needed to get away. Now. Velsha retreated to her quarters, slamming the door behind her, pressing both hands against the cold metal as she tried to steady herself. Her breathing was uneven, her body reacting in ways she did not understand. "This is absurd," she muttered. "It's just a human." But the scent, his scent, still lingered in her mind, wrapping around her like an unseen force. It wasn't just any chemical signature. It was tailored to her biology, perfectly designed to trigger something ancient and powerful within her species. A mating response. Her heart pounded. The Zamari were highly sensitive to pheromones, and their partners were chosen based on the compatibility of their scent. It was a deep-rooted evolutionary trait, meant to ensure the strongest pairings. But humans weren't supposed to have an effect on her. And yet, a knock at her door startled her. "Velsha? You okay?" Dane's voice. Her breath caught. She could still smell him. Even through the barrier of the door, his scent curled into the air like an invisible thread, pulling her toward him. She clenched her fists, forcing herself to resist. "I'm fine," she managed, though her voice was uneven. "Go away." There was a pause. Then, you sound kinda weird." Of course she did. She felt like she was burning from the inside out. "Did I do something?" he asked, and she could hear the genuine concern in his voice. "Yes, you exist." "No," she said, forcing herself to sound calm. "I just need space." Another pause. Then, to her horror, she heard the door slide open. Dane stepped inside, one brow raised. "You sure? You look kinda, whoa." Velsha had pressed herself against the far wall, arms locked at her sides, her breath ragged. The scent was unbearable now. He was too close, too warm, too much. Dane frowned. "Are you sick? You're shaking." She tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Then, as if compelled by an unseen force, she took a step toward him. Dane didn't know what was going on, but he knew Velsha wasn't acting like herself. The normally composed, sharp-witted alien was staring at him like he was some kind of puzzle she couldn't solve. Her luminous skin pulsed in waves, her fingers flexing at her sides. "Vel?" he asked cautiously. She flinched at the sound of her name. He took a hesitant step forward. Big mistake. The moment he did, Velsha sucked in a sharp breath, her pupils dilating so fast it sent a shiver down his spine. Then, without warning, she grabbed his shirt. Dane froze. Velsha's grip was tight, her fingers curling into the fabric. Her expression was a battle between panic and something much darker. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to me?" she whispered. Dane blinked. No." Her breathing hitched. Her entire body trembled. "Your scent. It's—" She broke off, swallowing hard. "Do I smell bad?" he asked, trying to lighten the mood. The look she gave him was devastating. "No," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You smell like—" She stopped, as if saying it out loud would break her completely. Dane suddenly felt very, very warm. Velsha's fingers twitched against his chest. She looked like she was fighting something deep inside her. Something dangerous. He had no idea what to do. But then, she did it for him. She surged forward, pressing herself against him, breathing him in like a drowning woman gasping for air. Dane stiffened, feeling the heat of her body through his shirt. This was getting out of hand. Velsha was breaking. She knew it. But she couldn't stop. The scent was too strong, too perfect. It wasn't just attraction. It was instinct, biology, need. Her species was built around compatibility, and somehow, this human was the exact match to trigger her most primal urges. Dane's voice was shaky. He was out of his depth, completely lost in whatever this was. But he wasn't pushing her away. She lifted her head, her glowing eyes locking onto his. She was trembling, her body taut with restraint. "Dane," she whispered, her voice thick with something she didn't dare name. He swallowed. "Yeah." Her fingers curled tighter into his shirt. "I think I'm in trouble." His lips parted, but no words came out. Neither of them moved. The air between them crackled with something undeniable. Velsha's instincts screamed at her to take more, to claim, to mark what was hers. She had never felt anything this overwhelming, this all-consuming. Dane's hands hovered uncertainly, like he wasn't sure if he should pull away or hold her steady. I don't understand what's happening." She pressed her forehead to his chest, inhaling deeply. "It's you," she admitted, her voice barely above a breath. "Your scent, my body." A frustrated growl rumbled in her throat. "It's choosing you." Dane tensed. "Choosing me for what?" Velsha lifted her head, her face so close to his he could see the faint shimmer of her bioluminescent freckles. "Mates," she whispered. His brain stalled. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, in a shaky voice, he managed, "That's wow. Kind of a big deal, right?" Velsha let out a bitter laugh. "You have no idea." Dane searched her eyes, trying to make sense of what this meant, of what she was feeling, what he was feeling. She was warm, so impossibly warm against him, and her breath was coming in uneven, rapid pulls. She was waiting for him to reject her, waiting for him to leave. But Dane wasn't sure he wanted to. Carefully, he reached up, brushing his fingers along her arm, feeling the heat of her skin. Velsha shivered. "So, what happens now?" he asked, voice low. She exhaled shakily, pressing even closer. "Now." Her glowing eyes met his, filled with something raw and desperate. "Now, I don't think I can let you go,"